Hello, and let's continue with our previous video. We saw a lot like about what's happening here between parent and child and the static blocks and non-static blocks and stuff like that. So if I go to main method, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna delete all these. We don't need that. Maybe I'm gonna delete everything. Now let's see if I can say parent p1 equal to new parent. Now I'm just creating an object of the parent. We have a child class that inherits from the parent. Now what do you guys think? What will be the output? Are we going to load both the child and the parent class to the memory, and does all the static blocks get executed for both classes and the non-static block? What do you guys think? So if I run the code right now, let's see. We're just loading the parent class to the memory. As soon as we load the parent class, all the static blocks of the parent class get executed, and the parent non-static block, because we are creating an object of the parent, and we are calling the no argument of the parent class, right? If I put here, debug it, we don't have to do anything with the child class right now. We are not loading even the child class to the memory, because we are creating only a parent object, and the parent object does not belong to the child class. It is not the reverse order. Okay, only the child class belongs to the parent class. In order to make a child class, we need to load the parent class to the memory, but vice versa is not true. Okay, so since we know that parent class doesn't belong to any class, parent does not belong to the child class, and we are only here making a parent object, and we don't have to do anything with the child class. That's why we are not loading the child class to the memory, and we are not creating any object of that. So none of the blocks, static block, non-static block, constructor, or anything of the child class gets executed. If I run this, we can see we directly jumped to the static instances of the static variables of the parent class. Then after we set this, we'll jump to the static block of the parent class. After that, we will create an object of the parent class. We call the constructor. Let's see. The static block is done. If we jump back here, we're calling the constructor. We came to the parent constructor, no argument constructor, and before that, before we execute the any constructor of any class, we are looking for non-static blocks. We have a non-static block, we get execute that first, non-static block, and we print that, increment the count, and we go back to the parent constructor and print that, create the object of the parent, return the reference variable. Now p1 is empty now, and if I go back, p1 is holding a reference to the parent object, right? So now what happens if I stop this one? We know that in inheritance and object orientation rule, a parent class reference variable can hold any of its child class object, right? So right now we have only one child class. I can say parent, maybe child1 equal to new child. I'm using a parent reference variable, but holding or putting or creating a child object, I can do that definitely. Now what happens? So before I do this, what I'm gonna do is I can put a count here also, maybe int static. Let's put a static variable for the child class also. Okay, static int child count, and gonna keep track of how many object of the child is created. And also I want to rename this. Maybe I can call it parent parent count. Or instead of doing it like this way, I'm gonna right click and maybe go to refactor and rename so that it gets reflected everywhere. I'm gonna clean this and say parent count equal to 0. So we increment the parent count here. And for the child count, maybe in the non-static block of the child count, I can say child count plus plus. So now I'm using the reference variable of the parent and I'm creating an object of the child class. So before that, let's Control Z this, Control Z, Control. Okay, I'm creating an object of the parent class, parent P1 equal to new parent. We saw the output. If I want to say is out parent count, let's see. We have a static variable. I can directly access them using the class name parent dot parent count. Since we don't have to access it using the object, we can do that, but it's not a good practice. So we can access directly using the class name. And let me Control D and do the same with the child count. Child count equal to child parent count. But not parent count, we can access the child count. Okay. Now, what do you guys think? Do we have an object of the child, an object of the parent? In this case, no. We will have only one parent object and the child count should be 0. Let's run it and verify that very quick. The child count is 0 and the parent count is 1. All right. Put here. Now, if I see, compared to the previous one, we got a child static block got executed. Why? Previously, if I don't have this, nothing of the child class got executed, right? We saw that. If I rerun it, we don't have anything about child class. But if I put this, only the static block of the child class got executed. Why? Because here we're not creating any object of the child class. We're only loading the class of the child to the memory to access the child count, right? That's why we just load the class, the child class to the memory. As soon as we load that, this static block gets executed and we print child, the static block got executed. So now let's do something else. If I say parent, for example, child1 equal to new child, we know that a parent reference variable can hold any of its children type, polymorphism, right? In object-oriented programming, we learned that. So now I can say parent p1 equal to new child. What happens now? So we are just creating an object of the child class. We are not creating any object of the parent class. So do you guys think we're gonna have a parent increment, a parent count increment, and also a child count increment? So let's run it quickly, and let's see what we get. Since we are creating a child class, all the static block and non-static block of the child class gets executed, including its no argument constructor, since we are calling the no argument constructor. So first, the parent static block got executed because we're loading the parent class. In the previous video, we saw that in order to create an object of the child class, first we need to load the parent class. So let's see the flow of execution very quick. I'm gonna put a breakpoint here and let's run it. The first thing we do before we call the constructor, we go to the parent, we load the parent class, um, set all its static members and execute its all static blocks, right? The static block of the parent, we don't do anything with non-static blocks since we are not creating an object of the of the parent right now. We're just loading the class, okay, in the memory. Let's go back to the child class. If I press step in, it's going to go to and load the child class. As soon as we load the child class, we have a static member for the child class right now, a static variable. It gets executed, like it sets the child count, then it will come to the child static block. Okay, let's see. So now the parent class is loaded. We came to the child class. We set all the static members first. Then we go execute the static blocks of the child. Now what happens? Both the classes are loaded in the memory right now. If I press, we come back here and we are calling the constructor, right? We come to the no argument constructor of the child class here. This time we're calling this version of the constructor. But before we call that, we know that by default, the compiler is going to make a call to the super um, constructor, the no argument constructor of the super class or the parent class, to build the parent object. So once, in order to build the parent object, well, what happens? If I go here, we don't have a super here, but by default, the compiler will put it and make a call to the super constructor. See, parent class, parent constructor with no argument. But before we create a parent object, let's see, do we have any non-static blocks? Yeah, we have some non-static blocks here. So before any constructor, the non-static block gets executed. Let's see. See, we came here and commented the parent object creation. Why? Because in order to create a child class, we need to first instantiate or build the parent object. Okay, that's why the parent increment, the parent count also get incremented. Let's go next, and we will go back to the parent no argument constructor. This line of code gets executed, and we come back to the child class no argument constructor. We will come here back, and before we come here, we came here, and we saw that we have a non-static block inside the child class. Also, before the constructor of the child class, we execute its non-static block. Increment the child count, print this one, and go back to the constructor of the child class, which is no argument constructor. Print this one, create the object, both the classes are loaded, the objects are created, and we return back to the main menu and return the object of return the address or the reference of the object that's created, and we store it in C1. And C1 is of type parent. We know a parent can hold all its child class, and if I say next, a child class is created with this hash code, and we store it in a parent reference variable. If I go here, name is null, because we call the no argument constructor. Now let's see, print, and if I go, parent count is 1 and child class count is 1. Okay, and we know that first we printed the parent static block, the child static block, the parent non-static argument, and the child non-static argument. Let's see what else we can do. If I say parent this time, maybe let's create a parent p1 equal to new. If I say parent, we know everything gets executed. What will be the count of this? Parent counts will be 2 and child count will be 1, right? Let's see. Yep, and we execute the respective blocks and constructor. We know that the static blocks get executed once, and the constructor, if I give it a name also, we can do that. For example, parent 1. This time, instead of calling the no arg constructor, let's call the argument constructor or parameterized constructor of the parent. We can definitely do that. So for each version of the constructor, the static block gets executed only once. We create first the non-static no argument constructor of the child, no argument constructor of the parent gets executed, no argument constructor, parent non-static block, no argument constructor, and child no argument constructor with its static block. Again, for this one, only the parent non-static block gets executed, not the parent static block again, because it executes once per class load, right? Right? So the parent argument constructor, this one gets executed, and we have two objects of the parent in the memory and only one object of the child. I hope this answers a lot of your question. And if you have any doubt, just let me know in the comment section. And if you know anything that we missed in this video, just put it in the comments, share with the viewers, and let's see. Uh, we can make it more complex, but you got the idea of like what happens, what is the flow of execution, like how things get executed, what is the order of execution, and the relationship, the simple relationship between the parent and child class, the is a relationship or the inheritance. Thank you guys, and see you in the next video. If you have any question, just let me know.